AI is changing our world in very radical ways, and the pace of that change is going to pick up. Believe it or not, it's going to get even more fast-paced, fast-moving. That's what we're unpicking today, the landscape, the changing landscape in which we exist, we run our businesses, and we share this beautiful journey together. Let's take a deep breath. And let's dive in. When I was a kid in the early 80s, so I was born in the 70s and I was about 8 in 1982, my dad came home with this box with this little rainbow emblem on it. And it was a Sinclair ZX Spectrum, one of the very first home computers, if you can call it that. And this thing literally was a little keyboard, little black keyboard, and we plugged it into the TV. And I remember 8 years of age staring at that TV, agog, literally like my jaw trailing the floor, looking at this thing that was coming up on the screen. And in that moment, something shifted in me. Even at 8 years old, I can still feel it. There was a shift to realize the world will never be the same again. You ever had one of those epiphany moments? One of those moments where you just go, and you know that life is going to be completely different from this moment on. That day, stood there in the lounge watching that thing on the TV was one of those moments for me. And it started a journey into a real childlike passion that I have for technology. A real inner desire to want to learn about it, to know more about it, to become a person that is like, oh, I know how to do that, and I've played with this, and I can do this, and I can do that. And that's been throughout my life ever since. I'm 49 years of age right now. And for the last 41 years since that moment, that's been a ruling factor in my life. Rewind a couple of years ago, and I had the very same feeling when I was playing with Chat GPT, when I was playing with this new era, this new wave of AI called Generative AI. And I typed something into the chat and it spat some stuff out. And I was like, oh. And then I typed something else into the chat and it brought something else out. And I was just, I was like that I was transported. I was literally that 8-year-old child again, looking at that TV screen, watching those rubbishy graphics as they were back in the day. And I felt that same sense of awe, that same sense of wonder, and that same sense of everything is going to change. The world is not going to be the same now that this thing is real, this thing exists. And since then, I've completely gone all in on this world of AI, specifically generative AI, and we'll talk about that in a second. And I've not looked back. And I've made it part of my mission now to bring the knowledge and the skills that I've developed over many years in business, in marketing, in online building of businesses, building a very successful e-commerce business that collapsed and I lost everything. So I've been at both ends of the spectrum. And then out of the ashes of that, rebuilding and building a successful coaching practice. And now AI is just woven into every area of that. So when I say generative AI, AI has been around for a long time. It's been a thing for ages. The term generative is where it's different, because generative means that it actually creates content. It creates interactions that are almost human-like. So if you've played with Chat GPT, You've typed into the text box and you've had an experience of the AI, this robot, this machine, bringing back responses that sound like another person. That essentially is generative AI. And the way that it works, we won't go into the architecture. I mean, I don't understand half of the architecture. I understand quite a bit, but I'm not technical in that sense, right? There is a series of networks that mimic what happens in the human brain. And all of this information is learned by the machine. And then from that learning, it actually generates new content. That's why it's called generative AI. So you could say to Chat GPT, suggest 5 things I could talk about on LinkedIn as an AI marketing coach. And you're going to see some responses. You're going to see it generate content. Now, what it's not doing, if you go into Google and you search, how do I create social content for LinkedIn? Google search is going to present you with content that already exists. So a curation of an article that HubSpot wrote on how to create content for LinkedIn, and it's actual content that's been created that has then been indexed in Google search and then presented to the searcher. It's very different to what we're talking about and what we're experiencing now with generative AI. Because generative AI has a corpus of knowledge, a body of information that it's been trained on, and it knows all things. Maybe not all things, but it knows so much. It has been trained on the whole history of humanity. Literature, arts, business, science, tech. It knows all of it inside of its training. And if you think about how our human brain works, we create connections. We see a thing over here, and there's a thing over here that's unrelated, and we make a connection between the two. Oh, if I was to bring this and this together, we could do this. That is the generative process that humans do that we're now able to mimic with AI. It's the forging of new connections. And this is where a lot of people don't really see the potential in Chat GPT. There are lots of generative AI tools out there. I use Chat GPT because typically that's the one that most people have heard of. But there are others, Google's Gemini, Claude's, Anthropic has one called Claude AI. They're the main 3 really as we sit and talk today. So I reference ChatGPT as these LLMs. They're called large language models, and essentially they're trained on data, and they're able to use language and the interpretation of language to bring up and generate new content and make those interconnections. So this then really does open up new possibilities that we weren't aware of before. It allows us to now view these LLMs, and I just reference ChatGPT as the default. It's the Xerox standard, if you like, of LLMs as we live and breathe today. We're able to use these tools now to think better, to think differently, to become a better human being. Think about that. You're not now looking at this tool thinking, I'm going to write an email. I've got to make a letter. Let ChatGPT do it. And all of these very surface level use cases. No. You can do that. Of course you can. And there are ways to do that. But now we're thinking, how can we think better? How can we think differently? Einstein used to use a method in his work called combinatory play. And Einstein, when he was wrestling with an issue, would go and do something completely different, like play the violin, do something completely left of field to the topic and subject that he was in. Because often when we stretch our thinking and we go outside of the box, we're able to see things that we were not able to see before. That is the human journey. The human journey of every soul on the planet is to grow, to evolve, and to be better, to be a better human. AI allows you to do that. This new wave of AI allows you to think differently, to think better, to combine disparate topics, arenas of thought, areas of thinking, and to bring them together to make new connections. And what that can do when it's used in the right way is it can spark creativity. It can spark inspiration, and it can cause you to do more, to be more in your work. It really is that powerful. And that's the thing that I'm seeing, and I'm so passionate about sharing with others, this beautiful gift that we have. Were we to embrace it? Now, Peter Parker's uncle, Spider-Man, says that, Peter, with great power comes great responsibility. Same is true with AI. This is a brand new field that we're pioneering here. This is uncharted territory. We've not done this before. We've not been in this place before. So we have to be responsible in how we adapt. And there's a difference between responsibility and fear. If we adapt a fear response, oh no, Chat GPT is bad. The AI robots are going to take over the world and kill us all. If we move from a place of fear, that's different to moving from a place of responsibility. Okay, this AI is here. It's not going anywhere. How can we implement responsibly? What do we need to do in order for it to be safe? For it to be for the betterment of mankind and not the detriment of our society. So that responsibility really is about looking objectively and beginning to understand the impact that this tool, this suite of tools, this swathe, this tsunami wave of change is having. So this tsunami wave, imagine back in 70s, 80s. I'm old, right? So I can go back through the decades, like the best of them. So imagine back in the day when there would be such thing as a typing pool, rows and rows of desks of people with typewriters typing away. That's my typing sound. There would be rows of people typing away, writing letters, creating these paper trails of things. Paper. We don't have paper anymore, do we? That's a thing. And even cash, right? Everything's electronic now. So things change. When typing was a thing, it was the skill to learn and to know. If you're a typer, how many words a minute can you type? You know, it was like a thing. I remember doing these when word processing became a thing. And it was like, whoa, these techniques to get better at touch typing and all of that. And it was a skill that was really important, because rather than be a typist, everybody had to learn how to operate these new machines, these new computers that came about. And so we all had to learn what it felt like to put our hands on a keyboard and press the letters. We all had to learn that. Similarly, email became a thing, paper diminished, and then we all had to learn, well, okay, how do we write an email? You think about that right now. It's like you would write an email. Most of us can write an email not with our eyes closed, because we can't write with our eyes closed. But most of us can write an email without even thinking about it. We had to learn how to do that. Now it's part of us, who we are, and it's part of our skill set. This tsunami of change in AI brings with it the need for similar adaptation. The world is changing, whether we like it or not. The world is changing. And we can either sit in that fear response of, I'm frightened of this, I don't know what it is. And no. and let it pass us by. Or we can take the responsible approach, the adaptable approach, the 8-year-old child that I was approach, where we're like, oh, what can we do with this for good? How can we make this help us go further, faster, deeper in our businesses? How can we help this? How can we use this to help others help others? So this podcast is called Thrive and Serve for that very reason. My calling, I'm on a mission here to help you thrive in service of others. And so now with AI, I'm able, with my coaching clients and the people in my unlimited community, we are able to do months and months worth of work in a fraction of the time. A fraction of the time, because of what AI allows us to do. Because these are brand new ways of thinking. Look at paper. Look at the typist writing a letter. You first have to get the paper, put the paper into the typewriter, type on the keyboard. That was a bad typing sign, but you get the idea. You type into the keyboard, pull the letter out. Now you have to fold the letter up, put it into an envelope, address the letter, put a stamp on it, take it to a post box, post it into the box, wait however many days for that letter to travel to its new destination, and then the repeat of the process, the reverse of that process happens. They take it out of the envelope, they open it, they read it, then they interpret it, and then they do something with it. That was how slow and laborious the world was before the days of email. When you just type, that was better, wasn't it? Type, hit send, boom, inbox immediately. We've already wiped out days. Those kinds of efficiencies are happening at a massive scale, much faster, much more than the example of email. I just share that to paint a picture for you, a mental picture, so that you can see that things are changing so fast, like faster than we can keep up with. So now the work I do with my clients is able to be completed and more efficient and faster and better and cheaper in a fraction of the time. Literally a fraction. I can do 1 month's worth of work in about 5 minutes with the aid of AI with that client. Really is that powerful. So I would spend a month researching, doing market research on the avatar, interviewing clients, doing surveys, doing all the market. I'm a marketer, right? So looking at the market research process, that can all be done in minutes now. Minutes. You can see the excitement, can't you? You can feel it. Hopefully you can feel it. And so now with that, we have to learn the skill. We have to learn a new skill. And I call it your superpower. So this new skill is your superpower. It's the superpower of what's called prompt engineering, because the way that you instruct AI dictates entirely the value that you get back. So good in very much equals good out. If you put bad in, you're going to get bad out. Just like we had to sit and learn how to type an email, we had to learn how to use a keyboard. We have to learn all of these things. We now have to learn prompt engineering. We have to learn how to instruct this AI. And in instructing AI, we can open up the doorways to all the things we've touched on today. And we've barely scratched the surface. We've just talked about thinking partner. Imagine that. Imagine thinking differently. Imagine being better at what I do. Imagine being better at everything I do, including efficiencies, productivity, all areas of life. And my business. And I get to serve more people. And I get to serve more people more deeply. And I get to serve more people more deeply and faster. So I can scale more. So therefore I can have a bigger impact in the world. All of these things are possible because of this sea change that AI is bringing to the world. And in all of this, your only duty is to remain open, responsible, and adaptable to this change. So your ability to develop that new superpower of prompt engineering, your ability to respond in a constructive way to this tool, and your ability to be like me at 8 years old and be playfully curious. Look at this technology with that wonder, the wonder and curiosity of a child. I spoke about this last week, the beginner's mind, that outlook of, oh, what can we do with this? How can we use this? And that, combined with the AI itself, is the magic formula. That is the thing that will create magic, that will allow you to amplify, enhance, accelerate everything that you do. Thank you for joining me today on Thrive and Serve. I'm Colin Scotland. I hope you found this content helpful, inspirational, and you feel empowered to go play with tools such as Chat GPT with fresh eyes. My invitation to you is, if you've enjoyed this content, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and go and let your unique light shine in the world in the way that only you can.